Hi, welcome to our webinar, Getting to Know Indexes, which is a new webinar in our emite Lifehacks range. My name is Matthew Terrell Adams. I'll be moderating the webinar today, and I'm joined by our presenter, Ria De Jesus, who will be taking us through all what we need to know about indexes. So while the webinar is running, if you have any questions, feel free to type them away in the Q&A box at the bottom of your webinar interface, and we will address those at the end. I think that's everything. So Ria, let's take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Matt, for that introduction. And again, welcome to another emite Lifehack sessions. And it's such a pleasure to have everybody in today's webinar. So I'm very excited to share with you today everything about indexes. So to get things started, let's see what we would cover in the next 30 to 45 minutes. So we'll get to know the different emite indexes. So the agent-related indexes, we have agent history, agent observations, agent presence history, agent state history. We'll also talk about a very interesting index, such as call segments, and campaign-related indexes for those who have the outbound dialer set up in their PureCloud, as well as contact list stats, quality history and quality history agent or queue for those who have quality evaluations utilized in PureCloud as well. And of course, the queue performance indexes for queue history and queue observations. All right, so the last index that we have would be wrap-up code history. So all of these indexes might not be present, or you may not see all of them because you may not be using all parts of Genesys Cloud or your PureCloud. For instance, the quality related indexes or the campaign ones. So it really depends on what you have in your PureCloud subscription. So you won't see these indexes if you don't use them, because that means we won't have any data for that. So another piece that we would cover today, of course, would be the available emite online resources specifically for indexes. All right. So first, let's go ahead and have a better understanding of what an index is. So if you get into your emite instance, and we'll do that in a bit later, these are the different indexes. So you can consider an index as a data warehouse where the data that emite gets from Genesys Cloud is stored. So these data from Genesys Cloud are specifically grouped together based on the APIs that emite pulls. And we have several online references that we go to in a bit later, so we can provide you some ease of understanding on how you can maximize these indexes. You can also access these data from a historical or a near real-time perspective, depending on the data you're working with to create different visualizations and reports. So let's dive in and see the different online resources we have for you. So one that I would highly recommend is to get into the PureCloud data dictionary that we have in our Confluence page. And this would provide a list of different indexes, the polling schedule that we have for each index, and what each index would contain. So I'll go ahead and just quickly unshare my slides and get to the actual Confluence page so you can see. Let me just get there very quickly. Here we go. So this is another piece of documentation that I would share with you later, but let's get to the PureCloud dictionary first. Here we go. So as you can see, we have the summary of all the indexes over here, and like what I've mentioned earlier, the polling frequency that we have for each index and what each index would contain as far as measures are concerned. So you can go ahead and click on this quick link over here. So for agent history, agent observations, if I go ahead and just click on this, you would see the different measures that each index would have. So this is a very good guide for you to go back to if and when you're exploring different indexes, or you just want to validate if you're selecting the right measure and the right index for your report or your dashboard, right? So you saw earlier another Confluence page, which is this one. So this is a PDF file for our customers who have been using emite for quite some time, and for our legacy customers, click or download the PDF and it would give you the same information as a dictionary has, but just for our legacy customers. So it would give you an overview of all the indexes available, as well as its polling frequency. So if you can click on just this part, the PreCard Adapters overview. So you will have the polling interval for each index. And if you just scroll down a little bit further, you will see all the indexes listed as well, together with all the measures available and even dimensions available for that particular index. So this is a very, very good resource as well. And another resource that I would share, if I'll just quickly go back to our dictionary. So there's a link embedded, or a quick link over here, to the PureCloud metric definition. So I'll just go ahead and click on this, and it would launch a brand new tab for us. So this piece of reference is directly from Genesys, and this would provide a comprehensive list of all organic Genesys metrics that you would also find in our emite indexes. So you would see here different metric definitions, key concepts that would allow us to be able to understand what we can and would need to select in our emite index. So if you can just click on conversation metrics. So one of the most popular ones would be "and offered." So this, or most of these different metric labels you would also see in our emite indexes. So this is a very good reference for you to be more acquainted with what you're trying to select in the emite indexes. So for instance, "and offered" is the number of interactions offered to a queue by an automatic call distributor, or ACD. So in this Genesys Developer Center page, let me just quickly scroll back up and click on statistics. We need to understand another important concept, and this would be still around the data that we get, or the data that emite gets from Genesys Cloud, and it may come in 4 different formats. So it can come in the form of a count, a minimum, a maximum, or a sum. So these would also be present in the naming convention of the measures that you would find in the emite indexes. So it's good for you to understand that it can be a count that indicates a number of calls during an interval. So that can be "and offered count." You would usually see it as a suffix in the naming convention of the measure in the emite index. So you will see that in a bit later. It can also be a minimum or a maximum value of a metric or of a statistics, and can also be a sum that indicates a total time in milliseconds during an interval. All right, so I'll go ahead and get into emite now. Let me get to my dashboard.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry. Let me just chime in there.
Sure, go ahead.
So with those 4 different data types, we only see the min, max, and sum for the T, or the time type metrics.
Sure.
The O, which are the observation, and the N, which are the count metrics in Genesys, will only come as a count.
All right. Thanks for adding that input, Matthew. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right. So let's now go back to our emite dashboard. Let me just make this a little bigger. All right, perfect. So let's try to add a cube report. And let me expand this quickly. So automatically you would get into, or you would get inside a cube, and by default you would now get into the different, or the drop down for the different indexes made available for you. So we'll go through this one by one. And like I mentioned earlier, you may not have all of these indexes. It depends on what you utilize in Genesys Cloud. So some may not be just present on your dropdown. So we'll start off with the different agent-related indexes. All right. So selecting agent history now. So for agent history, this would contain performance metrics of an agent. And you would also notice that there are different data sets over here. So we'll get into the predefined data set first. So as you notice, this would include or would contain all the organic Genesys Cloud or PureCloud data that emite gets. You can see some metrics here that would be related to the agent's performance. For instance, the count of the transferred calls that the agent did. So we can go ahead and view that from this index. And let's go ahead and try to get that per agent. And I want to see the top 10 agents who have the highest transferred count. So there you go. So these are the agents that would have the highest transferred count as selected from the agent history index. All right. So another thing that I would want to share with you as far as indexes are concerned, apart from the predefined measures that we directly get out of the box from PureCloud or Genesys Cloud, we also have some custom measures over here. And these are KPIs or custom measures that emite provides over and above the predefined measures that would come from PureCloud itself. So we have some custom measures created for our users. So for instance, if you want to see the percentage transferred, you can also opt to select that. So this would definitely vary depending on the index that you're trying to access. All right. So that is for agent history. Now we go to the next index, and that would be agent observations. So for agent observations, this would be daytype data on presence of agent. So as you know, in PureCloud, there are two presence systems. So you would see here the presence KPIs or the organizational presence. So if I get into very quickly just in PureCloud over here, so this would be my organizational presence. So I'm currently on training, and I can go ahead and update this while I'm off queue and not taking calls. So this would be the presence KPIs. Now when I go on queue, and let's just quickly go back to our dashboard, you will also see routing presence. So this is the second presence engine in PureCloud. So if an agent is on queue and currently waiting to take calls, or if they're currently taking calls, so this is where you would see, or you would select the routing status that you want to see. All right. So apart from the 2 out-of-the-box organic PureCloud or Genesys Cloud presence and routing status, same for the agent observations index, we also have our custom measures created for our users to be able to select. All right. So for agent observations, this would be near real-time data. So if you get back to our documentation in PureCloud, you will see the interval or the polling frequency for this particular index. So I think it gets updated every 5 seconds. So you can check on that in our PureCloud dictionary or our PureCloud documentation available in Confluence. So here. So for agent presence history, it's every 24 hours. And for agent observations, I think it would be every 5 seconds. It would be in the PureCloud dictionary. So for agent presence history, this would just give you additional custom measures. For instance, provides an additional data set on presence. Percentage interacting takes the amount of time of an agent in talking to a customer and dividing it by their entire time being on queue, and still some predefined measures that we would get directly straight from PureCloud. And then lastly, for the agent-related indexes would be agent state history. So this would just basically provide an insight or a metric for how much time in each state an agent has spent. All right, so those are the first 4 indexes related to agent performance. So we'll now get into a very interesting index, which is called segments. So it's not like any other index in emite, because this would provide an actual raw data that we get from PureCloud related to a customer interaction. So let me quickly share something over here. So let's get into the interaction screen in PureCloud, and this is how it looks like. So once a call gets in, so this is a single customer interaction, and you would notice that there are several call segments over here in the conversation timeline. So once the customer hits the system, gets into the IVR, up until the call gets wrapped up. So that would be multiple call segments associated in just one customer interaction. So all of those call segments we capture and will be present if you access the call segments index. So this would be very interesting, and let me show you how we can maximize the call segments index by adding a drill through instead. So let me maximize this for you. So we'll go ahead and select the call segments index over here. So let me just quickly fix this, and I just want to see the columns that I would want to use. Right, so definitely I want to see the conversation ID. Let's check that. I want to see all segment related data. Let's go ahead and check these ones. All right. I also want to see the media type. As well as the purpose. All right, I think that's all I want to see in my drill through view. You can also see the DNIS. Let's go ahead and quickly add that. So all call segment related data will be here. All right. So I think I'm good to go. All right. So this is everything that we capture from the call segments index and all the raw data directly coming from PureCloud for every single customer interaction. And as we have mentioned earlier, a single customer interaction would have several call segments associated to it. So let me go ahead and just use this as an example. So there you go. So this is a single interaction, and only in tabular form that you would see all the call segments represented. So if you notice, you would see when the customer called in, interacted, and the call hit the ACD, and up until. So we can just go ahead and reorder this. There you go.
Header. Yep. It's backwards, but okay, we can go from the
Right.
bottom up.
I'm trying to reorder, but anyway, yeah, let's go from bottom going up. All right. So anyways, so this is how we can see the entire customer interaction into different call segments from start to finish, starting at the bottom. So when the customer called in, hits the IVR, finally interacting with an agent up until the call gets wrapped up. So this is definitely corresponding to the interaction view that I showed early on over here, but just in tabular form. All right. So like I said, this is very helpful, and for us to understand these concepts for this particular index, especially if you're trying to do a deep dive of, or an analysis of a particular customer interaction and investigate some things. So the call index or call segments index would be a great help. All right. Thanks for that earlier, MTA or Matthew.
Not a problem. It's yeah. It's like you say. It's the most interesting index. It's so rich, but also there is a lot that you have to get through. So
Right.
getting your
So
filters right is key, isn't it?
very well said. So good point, and understanding the columns that you would want to see, because if you don't filter it right, it could be too much and it can be very overwhelming because you're actually accessing all the raw data from the call segments index. So thanks for that quick note. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the other indexes available. So getting into the campaign history indexes over here, campaign history, campaign progress, campaign stats, and campaign status. So these are indexes related to an outbound dialer. If you have that set up in your PureCloud, then these indexes would be available for you, and you'd be able to report on these things. But if you don't have an outbound dialer set up in PureCloud, so you won't have these indexes listed. Same thing for contact list stats. So for contact list stats, still, if you have an outbound dialer set up in PureCloud or in your Genesys cloud, then this would allow you to report on your contact list. If you have uploaded the CSV contact list or a CSV file as a contact list in your outbound campaigns, then Emite would enable you to report on these as well. So next set of indexes that you will find in Emite would be the quality evaluation related ones. So we have quality history agent and quality history queue. So for quality history agent, basically, if you have quality evaluation set up in Genesys Cloud, you'd be able to see how many quality evaluations a particular agent has for a particular time frame, and even their scores as well, represented in minimum and maximum data sets over here. So we can go ahead and try to see that. So this is for a quality history agent. And per department, oops, there you go. Let's try to see a preview. So this is the count of quality evaluations for the agents coming from these departments. So similarly, you would also have per queue, if that's more useful for your dashboard reporting instead of having it per agent. Then you will also see quality history queue count, as well as some of the evaluations on this particular index. So we basically have two quality evaluation related indexes, depending if you want to see it per agent or per queue basis. All right, so let's go over and transition to, I think, the most popular index in emite, because it contains, common contact center KPIs or metrics such as abandon rate, average handle time, and grade of service or service level. So I'm talking about the queue history index. So for queue history, we also have the predefined measures directly from PureCloud. So like what we have seen earlier for N offered count, we have validated the definition of that in the Genesys Developer Center. So you can get that straight over here, and offered. And you can definitely slice and dice that measure depending on the different queues that you have. Let me go ahead and select that. There you go. Or if you don't want to see a single measure directly straight from PureCloud, you can also check on the custom measures that we have or emite created over and above the predefined measures. So we can get or see the percentage abandoned, percentage answered, and another useful data set that we have included in the queue history index would be trend measures. So you would see the abandoned count from 7 days ago, same day last week. So you can go ahead and just select depending on your preference and what piece of measure you would want to see. For instance, today's grade of service or service level over here. Let me just maximize my screen. And still, we want to see that per the different queues available. And that is your today grade of service for the different queues available in your organization. So again, that came from the trend measures data set or data group that you can select from within the queue history index. All right. So lastly would be, second to the last, but last for the queue related index would be queue observations. So this would be presence information, not on a per agent basis, but on a queue perspective. So you would see the predefined measures here, again, directly from PureCloud, and some custom measures that we have made available for this index. So you can see the active agents count, and you can go ahead, see how many agents are currently active, and you can go ahead and still slice and dice that measure depending on what dimension you would pick. Or let's just select queue name for that. So that is for queue observations. Again, presence information from a different queue perspective. And then lastly would be wrap-up code history. So allows you to see different statistics or different measures, or especially if you want to deep dive or do some analysis on how agents classify their customer interactions as they wrap up or end their call. So you would see some predefined measures here, again, straight from PureCloud, and some custom measures that we have made available. All right. So let me just quickly share my slides back. So we'll provide additional online resources apart from the different pages or Confluence articles that we have shared earlier. So I'll start with our very own YouTube channel. So Emite has one, and we have created the playlist where all the webinars will be saved. So this webinar is currently being recorded and will be saved in our YouTube channel together with the different online resources and the different pages and links that we have shared in today's session. Similarly for Confluence, so on the left pane, under Emite end user documentation, you would find the previous pages that I've shown early on. The PureCloud dictionary, the PureCloud documentation would be all here. We also have what we call UserVoice. We value every user feedback, and our UserVoice portal will give our users the opportunity to improve Emite. So this is where you can lodge enhancement requests and even connect with other Emite users. And the last resource that I would want to share with you would be our support portal. So in the event you encounter challenges in Emite, we have a team of experts ready to assist, and you can access the support portal via support.prophecyinternational.com. All right, so I hope you learned a thing or two from the many different indexes that you would find in your Emite instance. So I think this is the time that I would just circle back to Matt to see if there are other questions from the audience or any clarifications or comments around the topic that we just had.
Thanks, Ria. So I'm not currently seeing any questions come through, but we'll give that a minute. From my end, I don't think there's any other clarifications or questions I had.
Okay,
I made sure to butt in. I made sure to butt in. So.
Right. Thank you so much for that additional input of yours, MTA, or Matt. We're just fond of calling him MTA in our team. Anyways, do you have any other additional reminders or final words, just all around indexes, Matt, for customers?
No, I don't think there's anything extra. I mean, you've pretty much covered everything that I would want to bring up here. So well done.
Thank you so much. And thank you as a reminder that you reinforced earlier, especially when working on drill-throughs. Filters, as a rule of thumb, making sure that you're filtering your data very, very well. Thank you.
Well, it's only I've learnt from my own mistakes.
And as you journey along, right? So you'll always have something to learn. All right.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so no further questions at this time.
So I think that's about it for today's webinar session. And just a quick plug. So this would be a regular activity that the emite team would have, so watch out for invites and announcements. So as you have seen earlier, or as you subscribe to our YouTube channel, there would be 2 types of webinars that we offer to our customers. So today we have emite Lifehacks, so it would revolve around tips and tricks, best practices in emite, and the other type of webinar that you would find in our training playlist found in YouTube would be data blocks and focus. So you would learn different data block types from a very detailed standpoint. So please go ahead and just visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel to be able to view past webinars that I think would be very, very helpful as you journey along with emite. All right, so I thank you everybody for your time, and stay safe during this crazy time, and we'll talk to you soon and see you in our next webinar offering. Thank you so much and have a great day ahead.